Hi, my darlings. I'm Sophie Darling, and welcome to my first reaction to Levi's OVA No Regrets Part 1 and 2. I'm really excited to watch this OVA, mainly because we didn't see a lot of Levi in season 2. I'm presuming we're probably going to see more of him in season 3 because it seems kind of silly not to, considering how much of a badass he is, and we don't really get a lot of him in season 2, which makes sense since season 2 is more focused on bridging between series 1 and series 3, I guess, by revealing all the information that it's giving us. I feel like I got to the end of season 2 and I still don't know where things are going. And I feel very dumb. I feel like I've missed something. I feel like I should be able to put the puzzle together. Maybe that's ambitious of me, but I just feel as if everything I have been shown, I'm struggling to figure out where it fits in. But that's okay because then it means everything will be really exciting, especially because I do have theories. I just don't know where the story is going. I can only theorize so far with like half the pieces still missing. So I hope you can forgive me for not having the most in depth theories on season 2. I'm sure my season 3 and season 4 will be a lot longer in terms of outros because there will be more information. And also, from what I can see, season 3 is a lot longer than season 2. We didn't watch No Regrets when we should have done, which was, I think, at the end of season 1. I did Ila's Notebook and then I moved straight on to season 2. So I'm kind of late to the game, but I don't think it'll matter too much, just primarily because we haven't seen a lot of Levi in season 2, so I don't think it's going to really touch on anything with season 2. What's going to interest me most is we have been given kind of glimpses into Levi's past from Petra, where Petra said, oh, he used to run in the underground and he was dragged to the survey court by Erwin. I'm really looking forward to seeing how that happens and their relationship dynamic, because Erwin and Levi really kind of fascinate me because you can see at times in season 1 and at the end of season 2 that Levi doesn't always agree with Erwin and Erwin's methods, that there's indications that he thinks Erwin takes things too far, that Erwin is willing to play games with people's lives in a way that Levi wouldn't necessarily agree with, and that he maybe values the lives of everyone around him more than Erwin does. I get that Erwin very much embodies Arwen's statement of those who can't sacrifice anything can't change anything. And that's why I have a soft spot for Erwin. He's willing to actually put his actions behind his words. He's willing to bear the brunt of the decisions that he makes. He's not shirking the responsibility or the blame. He will take the full extent of the judgment. And there's just moments where you can see Levi not necessarily agreeing with Erwin, but because of the loyalty that he has to being a soldier and Erwin being his commander, and maybe we'll see more of why he's so loyal to him in the OVA. He voices his discontentment, but he still does what he's commanded to do because he's a soldier at the end of the day. He has no choice. He has to. But I like that Erwin allows Levi to voice that discontentment without condemning or judging him or shutting him down. Levi very much is allowed to have that voice, and Erwin probably respects him for doing so. 60% of you that keep watching my videos are not subscribed, and I don't see why not, because at the end of the day, you're still watching the videos, so you might as well hit that subscribe button. You might as well hit the bell notification to receive notifications of my videos when they go live. You might as well hit the likes as well. If you're watching anyway, it doesn't really make that much of a difference. And it would be super, super appreciated by me because liking, subscribing, and turning on all notifications really does help me as a creator. It helps my videos get boosted into the algorithm, and it helps more people who enjoy these shows find my channel, and we can share these interesting conversations together, and we can engage in the media together. So please consider doing so. I would super, super appreciate it. And without further ado, we're gonna get into No Regrets Part 1 and see Levi's adventure. If I do my makeup, and I cry at this episode, I'm gonna be so mad. Seems to be a running theme is every time I do my makeup, an episode makes me cry. We saw a glimpse of that in season 2 at the end. It's my boy. Is that Hanji? Wait. I don't know if I'm jumping the gun, but that Wahoo is very like what Hanji does. And she did that in Ila's notebooks. And like how they grew up together and joined the survey corps. Oh my god, my heart. It's like Eren, Mikasa, and Armin all over again. It's like a replication, especially dark hair, darkish hair, and blonde. Oh, no, it's not. Damn. I was thrown off by the Wahoo.
最も安全な地域の地下にそれはあった。華やかな王都の陰に生まれ育った者たちは、一度も地上に出ることなく、一生を終えることも珍しくなかった。
That's horrible. So basically, the poorer you are, the more disadvantaged you are, but then you're also forced into the underground without being able to see the light of day. It almost reminds me of Futurama, and where the mutants, because they're different, are forced to live beneath the surface and are discriminated against. I don't know if people that live in the underground city are discriminated against, but it kind of gives that impression that if you can't afford to live above the surface and you're kind of forced to live underground and you're so disadvantaged that you'll likely never leave the area that you're in. And the Wahoo, like Hanji says that so much that like I was like, oh my god, it's Hanji, but it's not Hanji. I'm kind of sad that it's not Hanji, but it would also make sense that they didn't know each other based on like their kind of like confrontational nature in Ila's notebook between Levi and Hanji. It kind of gave the impression that they didn't really know each other that well. Whereas if they had grown up together, it wouldn't have been as like tense between them. So far, it seems like Levi is stealing from the rich to give to the poor, kind of like a Robin Hood figure, and has ODM gear. But we know ODM gear was being sold on the black market. So did they steal the gear? It's kind of like the slums, isn't it, of the walls?
ほら、待たせたね。俺。
ああ、ありがとう。
お前ら、浮かれて使いすぎるなよ。
He gave him a little more than the rest. Why?
増やしすぎたやつもいたように見えたがな。
Oh, he noticed that, didn't he?
理由は
あいつのヤンの足がまた悪くなってるのは気づいたろ。高いんだよ、薬。
Oh,
最近値上がりしたしな。
that's so thoughtful.
地下商人のやつら、階段通行料も値上がりしたって。
ああ
Wait, they're being told to even go upstairs?
ますます日の光は拝めない。
That's disgraceful.
どの階段も自分たちで買い占めてるから、値段はつけ放題だ。な
Wow.
んとか払って外に出たところで、居住権がなきゃ大していられない。すぐに強制送還だ。
That's disgusting.
それにしても大金に見えたが。
手切れ金だから。あいつはもう無理だ。せめていい病院探すよ。
So they're essentially trying to save money so that they can leave the underground. They just want a better life, man. Jeez. Oh!
なんだ、ガキか。脅かしてくれるよ。
ガキじゃねえ。
そうか。じゃあ追い出しても後味悪くねえな。床を汚してくれたことは多めに見てやる。今すぐ出ていけ。
He really hasn't
なんで
changed much, has he?
動けないのか
動けるよ。甘く見んな。
気の強い子だな。
Is that a bird? It is. She's rescued a bird.
捕まえたら俺に一番に楽しませろよ。あんなガキ楽しんもクソもねえよ。
Oh, you
お
pervert.
い、ここに小汚ねえガキが来たろ。てめえらこの辺りのゴロつきが。
どっちが
The irony, considering they're willing to help people more than they are. They're not exactly thugs, are they?
いや
じゃあそいつを渡してもらおうか。何しろ11号階段をタダで通り抜けようとしたんだからな。知ってるだろ。
She was
11号って
oh,
や議員のロボフさん肝入り
she
の
was
公
probably
認会
trying
だ
to set the bird
こ
free,
こを
wasn't
タダ抜けと
she?
なると未遂でも見過ごせねえんだよ。そこどけ。
Yes, Levi. Don't you dare touch her. Oh, is this because they touched him? I'm wondering if his reason for being such a clean freak is because of the environment in which he's grown up. So it's kind of like a compulsive thing because it's the one thing in his life that he can control. He can't control the circumstances in which he's growing up. He can't control the world around him. So therefore, he uses cleanliness and cleaning as the one thing that he can actually exert power over in a world where he feels powerless.
死んじまうだろうが。
She just wanted to save the bird.
あったかいと思って。
Aww.
どうしたんだ
That's all she wanted to do.
迷い込んでたんだ。多分通風口から。だから地上に出してやろうと思ってさ。
That's so sweet.
こいつだって地下街なんかより空飛びたいだろ。
Aww.
うまいねあんた。あ、そうだ。名前は
So this is how they met Isabel. So we are getting a bit of a
That's what I
flashback from the
バー
beginning.
ラン。それとリヴァイの兄貴か。あんたたち立体起動装置使ってたろ。見たことあるんだ。すっげえ羨ましかった。鳥みたいに飛び回ってさ。あれやってみたいんだ。私も。
Well, they have room now. They've put someone on severance, so
ここにいるなら立体起動より先に掃除を覚えろ。
what? It looks like he has given hope to children that are disadvantaged in this world. So he hasn't changed from season 1. Why do I have a feeling something bad's gonna happen to her and that's gonna cause him to really distance himself from being emotionally connected to people? That makes sense as to the feather when it floated down at the beginning. So it's this symbolism of freedom, which is why we see the birds, I guess, constantly because that seems to be a thematic thing is feathers and birds. We see it in season 1. I believe in episode 1 we see the birds flying over the wall, and then we also see them in episode 25 when Armin is looking at the ducks and they're flying over and the feather floats in. And again, it's happening here. So thematically, I guess the connection, if I was going to say what I thought it was, it's to do with wanting to be free, wanting to be unhindered, unrestricted, the freedom to move, the freedom to go where one pleases without the threat of a cage. And the walls, in a sense, are a cage. They keep people trapped within. And I still don't know if that's for humanity's safety or if that is genuinely just to trap humanity and to prevent them from ever learning the truth of the walls or those who are in charge within. It's a way of self-preservation and therefore the rest of humanity is punished, or whether it is genuinely to protect them from the Titans. But I guess again, we'll see as we go through. But it very much seems to be like birds, freedom, flight all seem to be very connected with this idea of longing to be unhindered and symbolically to live freely. And again, that's just a big part of the season 1 themes is freedom and to be unhindered and to not live within a cage, because Eren says that constantly. So yeah, I just think it's really beautiful that we see like the remnants of the birds, like through the feathers. The feathers are almost symbolizing hope that there is potential to one day be able to fly and one day to be free. You see the literature part of me come out when I see things. I'm like, yeah, that's a symbol. And then I start rambling, and there's gonna be people like, maybe it's just a feather, or maybe the curtains are just blue. Nothing is without reason in storytelling. Everything has a purpose, and the most minute of things might not seem symbolic to you, but there is probably a meaning behind it. And yeah, it's why I tend to like talk about the flowers that we see around Mikasa and Eren and what they could mean, and why it's I'm now talking about the birds and the feathers because it keeps coming back up. So it's like reoccurring. Built as part of an underground colony to avoid Titans, however, it turned into a slum for criminals and the poor after the project was halted. Since its residents rarely get sunlight, many of them develop problems within their legs. It's just awful to see that people who are already so incredibly disadvantaged are being charged to even see the sun. I don't understand how anyone could be so cruel. And I guess in this type of environment, it is the strong devour the weak, and thematically, again, we see that throughout series 1, especially Mikasa's flashback of her parents. We see the weak constantly being devoured by something stronger. But at the same time, there's a difference between self-preservation and protection and taking advantage for personal gain. And I think that's the difference that we're seeing already between Levi and the thug that is trying to harm the young girl and making very disgusting suggestions as to what he's going to do to her. We see him say, "Oh, you're the thugs," but truthfully, he's not. He's not doing this for gain at the expense of those who can't afford it. He's taken advantage of the rich. He's taken advantage of the merchants that are already ramping up prices to the extent that the poor cannot afford them. Because we see quite a few younger people around him. He's giving money back to those who have no opportunity probably to make money. So in a way, it's yes, self-preservation for himself, but he is also a Robin Hood figure in that he is stealing from the rich in order to help the poor. He's helping those who are disadvantaged. And then you have people that see him as the criminal and him as the thug. And it's so ironic because those are the very same people that are very happy to take advantage and cause suffering to others because of the circumstances in which they're growing up within.
すでに前金を支払っているんだがね。
Wait, what?
冗談だろ。あんたとは初対面だ。そう。だが彼のことは知っているはずだ。
Oh, they're gonna help him.
彼の足はもう限界だ。地上の病院で治療をしなければ。そうだろ、リーバイ君。 どういうことだ。言ったろ
How does he know
仕事の
Levi?
前金だ。話を聞いてもらえるね。
He's not gonna say no. Is this the counselor? They mentioned the counselor that was running the stairs. Is this him? Or maybe it's someone above ground that just wants to take advantage of the children in the slums for his own gain.
そいつらか。
はい、腕は確かだと。
なんだてめえは。
警戒するのはわかるが、私のことは信用してもらう。
So we're going to see probably those within the interior
こうして
taking
私が直
advantage.
接会ったことが全てだ。
地上じゃ知らないが。
I'm presuming he's a noble based on the crest on the
成
carriage.
功報酬がそれなりであることの証だ。
So he must be of like the noble
仕事に
class.
成功した場合、お前たちが受け取るのは莫大な金だけではない。地上の居住権だ。
How can you pass that up? What is he
ヤンの確
wanting
認は取れた。
so
確か
badly?
に一流の病院に入ってる。馬車の男の身元も間違いない。あの仕事は本物だ。
Levi looks really conflicted.
お前たちがこの仕事をやるやらないにかかわらず、ターゲットは接触してくるだろう。つまり、無関係ではいられないということだ。
He's either being asked to steal something or to eliminate somebody.
だがもし、あのハゲの言う通り、奴らが出てきたら、仕事を始める。おい。あれ。
何やってんだ。
すみません。
That would be me. Whenever I see a dog.
おい、待てやめ。やられた。またあいつらだ。
リヴァイ、来たぞ。追ってな。
Military police. And the survey corps.
憲兵団か懲りない連中だぜ。
I'm going off the green cloaks and it's the survey corps. Oh, it's so cool.
あの動き、憲兵団じゃない。
No, it's the survey corps.
間違いない。奴らだ。あの自由の翼の紋章。調査兵団だ。
It's Owen! Is Owen the target? But why?
さすが壁の外で巨人と戦ってる奴らは違うな。
お前ら、分かってるな。
当然。
仕事だね。
さて、調査兵団の腕前、見せてもらおうか。
The animation in this show is phenomenal. Oh! That's gonna be Erwin that's chasing him. Yeah. No, it's Mike! Oh, Mike. It's so good to see him again. Now it's Erwin. My boys.
よっさ、周りをよく見ろ。
離せこのチェキショ
Is that young Petra?
立体軌道の腕も見事だった。あ
He
れ
taught
は誰に
himself.
教わった？お前がリーダーだな。兵団で訓練を受けたことがあるのか？
That's almost identical to how he treated
もう
Aaron.
一度聞こう。立体軌道をどこで学んだ？
誰にも習ってない。独学だ。
独学だと？信じられんな。
この薄暗いゴミためから少しでも浮き上がるために身につけたんだ。光が当たって当然のお前らにはわからないだろうな。
いいから兄貴から手離せ。兵士だからって威張ってんじゃねえよ。
私の名はエルヴィン・スミス。お前の名は
リヴァイ。
リヴァイ。私と取引しないか。
取引。
お前たちの罪は問わない。代わりに力を貸せ。調査兵団に入団する。
So he really wasn't given a choice, was he? Kind of forced into it.
憲兵団に引き渡す。これまでの罪を考えれば、お前はもとより、お前の仲間もまともな扱いは望めないだろう。
The one thing I think it's worth noting is how Erwin's willing to get himself dirty. Like, he's willing to put his knee in the puddle and bring himself down to Levi's eye level. And I think that's just a good indication of the type of commander that he is. And he is very ingratiated with his men. He could have used this instance to loom over Levi as almost like a power dynamic, a power trip. But his choice to get down, put his knee in the puddle that Levi was just also thrown into, and meet him on an eye level shows connection. It is him trying to establish a bond with Levi. It is him also seeing himself as not superior to Levi despite their circumstances in life.
好きな方を選べ。
So this is what Petra means, that he is essentially dragged into the survey corps.
調査兵団に入ってやる。
Oh, I love Levi so much. Just his little petulant face where he's just like point blank refuses to give anything, but yet we still see emotions in him. We still see how much he cares for Petra in season 1, and I do believe that there was romantic indication between the two of them, just based on the fact that out of everyone in the squad, it was her patch that he chose to keep. Even though he gave it away to Ivan, he still made that choice to save her patch. And the look on his face when her body's dumped from the cart, and then the mention of her father saying, well, you can't marry her yet, she's still just a child. That kind of dynamic indicates how much Petra really cared for Levi, and based on his actions throughout that episode, but also the way it lingers on Petra's face in episode 21 when Levi discovers that his squad has been killed, gives the impression that there is more to their relationship dynamic than meets the eye. It is more than just a commander and a soldier. It is very much an intimate relationship, probably one that never had the opportunity to blossom because of Petra's untimely demise at the hands of Annie. The end of season 2, they talked about how they brought the people of War Rose beneath the surface just to make sure that the wall hadn't been breached and to try and protect people. And then they eventually brought them back up because they couldn't keep that many people below surface because of the lack of rations. We didn't really get much information about it other than it was a failed project, but it's really nice to kind of see more of Levi's background, more of how Levi establishes himself as somebody worthy of respect. His sense of morality and in doing what he believes is right and making choices that he believes he can live with, even if they're not necessarily choices that other people would make. How he tries to rise above the situation that life has thrust him into. He tries to make a better life for himself and by extension, the other children around him that also are disadvantaged, that also don't have the same opportunities as those above ground. I hope we do get to learn more information about Levi's childhood and his parents, or at least how he came to be in the slums. What makes me curious is how did they determine who lives above ground and who isn't worthy of living above ground? We kind of weren't given that information other than that those who are too poor to afford to live above ground are forced into the underground. But at the same time, how do people come to be? Is it a cycle of poverty where people couldn't receive housing above ground, sought the underground city as their only option? And then by extension, they have children, their children lack these opportunities. And then that creates a cycle where nobody is really able to escape because they can't afford to do so. That's probably what it is, people that can afford to either buy a house, or I don't know the economic situation of above ground. I don't know if it's buying or renting. It's probably a combination of the two. It could just be people that couldn't categorically afford that were forced then to take refuge beneath the city, and as a result didn't have much choice but to reside there unless they could pay to leave. But I imagine with the ramped up prices that they're sold just for basic things like medicine, they never had that opportunity. So seeing Levi's ability to make a life for himself, but also to give hope and aspiration to others around him growing up in the same situation, is just so beautiful to see. We get to see more of that human side of him. We get to see that more connective aspect in which he doesn't seem like he cares, but it's very obvious that he does, and that he cares strongly for the people around him. Not to mention the fact that his cleaning aspect again crops in, and we got that nice little flashback to when he opens the window in the castle when they're cleaning in season 1, and then we get that again here. So that was like a really fun like little throwback, and it just shows that he really hasn't left behind these tendencies from his younger years in the slums. But again, I think knowing Levi's past and the environment that he's grown up in and feeling disadvantaged and feeling powerless, that emphasizes why he's so fanatic about cleaning, because again, it is something that he has control over. It is something that he can exert power over in a world that makes him feel powerless. And just, I love this show so much. It really makes me think. I just love this. I'm gonna watch part 2. So I'm presuming this is after they join the Survey Corps, and will probably show his training. Most likely. There is no skip button. Oh my god, there's no skip button for the bloody. There's no skip button. But I don't want to watch it now, so I'm just gonna have to try and like scroll through and see. Ah! Okay, okay, we're safe. We're safe. I found the intro.
正直言って屈辱的です。正規の訓練を経てきた我々に犯罪者どもを受け入れろと言うんですか。あんな地下街のゴロつきどもと同じにされては部下たちの士気に関わります。
しかも今度の壁外調査に連れて行くなど。
君たちの懸念は理解できる。だが立体起動の腕は私が保証する。
それにエルヴィンが考案した新人形は画期的だ。これまでのいかに巨人を倒すかでなく、いかに巨人と遭遇しないか、そこに重きが。
Oh, is this the
確実に兵団の被害は減るだろう。
the formation with the horses and the
兵団の変
flares?
革の一翼となると。
Oh, Owen invented that. That's so cool.
規律と人形の知識だ。それなら短時間でも十分だろう。バカではないらしいからな、エルヴィン。
はい。
今日から我々と共に戦う3人を紹介する。お前たち皆へ挨拶しろ。
リヴァイだ。
Oh, that's
リヴァイ
Hanji.
貴様はまず規律を叩き込んでもらえ。次。
イザベル・マグノリア、よろしく頼むぜ。
ファーランチャーチです。
What are they hiding? What is this show hiding? Because Levi is the only one that is not saying his last name. Why? There is a reason for that. There's a reason. Because I am like 100% sure they all just revealed their last name. Yeah, Isabel Magnolia, Berlin Church. And then he just goes, I'm Levi. Why are they hiding his name? If you think about it, in season 1, they didn't give us his last name at all. It's just always Levi. So, like, what are you hiding? Who are you connected to? Because the last name would be an indication of him being connected to somebody. So why are they being so sneaky in hiding that? Unless it's like a big reveal coming up at some point.
ここが兵舎だ。
結構な数だな。
みんな一緒の部屋ってことか。
女子は別棟だ。
俺もここがいい。
男二人、お前らの寝床はここだ。
What's really sad is that both of them are probably dead because we never see them in season 1 or season 2.
お前ら、ずっと地下のゴミ溜めで暮らしてきたんだろうが、ここは清潔に使えよ。
ああ
Oh no.
なんだその目は。貴様上官に向かってそんな態度をとって。
He takes his cleaning very seriously.
了解です。清潔に使います。
Levi's about to punch him.
明日から早速訓練だ。いいな。敬礼の手の甲は下だ。
お前にはクソがクソを汚えって言ってるようには聞こえなかったのか。
あのな、俺たちはたまたま捕まったわけじゃない。
Was the plan all along for them to get caught?
リーバイ、ここへ来た目的
Yes,
忘れたわけじゃないだろ。
The plan was for them to get caught all along. It's why he gave up so easily.
保留されていた今期の壁外調査の予算が正式に認められた。強行に反対する議員一派の筆頭が突然賛成に回ったらしい。ニコ
Oh.
ラス・ロボフですか。
やはり知っていたか。
So Nicholas is trying to undermine them
君
from
は以前
within.
壁外調査は必ず承認されると言っていたな。
So is his goal to undermine the Survey Corps in that he has planted these three individuals? They're going to cause havoc and mayhem beyond the wall on one of these expeditions that he's approved. And then as a result, that's going to cause others to lose faith in these expeditions and refuse to fund them any further.
エルヴィン、君は何か真っ当でない手段でロボフの意見を変えさせたんじゃないのか。
エルヴィン・スミスが持っているある資料の入手。
Oh, did Erwin blackmail him?
ロボフは憲兵団へ物資を納品しているラング商会と癒着があり、壁外調査の廃止も予算をそちらへ回すためだと。
So he's doing it for his own interest.
そして調査兵団分隊長エルヴィン・スミス。奴の始末がお前たち。
So it is an assassination as well. Because he's in the path of ruining his investment opportunities to benefit himself and his own greed instead of what's best for humanity. And Erwin knows this, and Erwin has documents on him.
どうするつもりだ、エルヴィン。
それ以上はお聞きにならないでください。すべては私の独断です。
危険な橋は君自身も奈落に落とすかもしれんぞ。
He's making some dangerous enemies.
私は調査兵団に入って、
I feel
実
like
際に巨人と戦うことで
this may come back
人類が
around in
いかに
season
危うい
3.
状況に置かれているかを知りました。
The dangerous enemies will
財産も
target
権力
him.
崇高な理念も、もし壁の中へ巨人が攻め込んでくれば、一瞬で全てが消えてしまう。だからこそ、我々はどんな卑劣な手段を用いようとも、壁外調査、巨人から世界を取り戻す努力を放棄してはならないのです。人類の未来のために。
He's not wrong, because whatever good that they do as a society, whatever ideals and ambition they have, no matter how greedy some of their ambitions are, they're all useless if the Titans do breach the walls. They're all useless in the face of the Titans because the Titans don't care about this. Titans don't care if you have a business that's doing extremely well. The Titans don't care that you have a family. The Titans don't care if you want to abuse your position as an elite to discriminate against those who are lesser, because the Titans treat you all equally. Maybe this is why the Titan shifters are so angry against society, is because of humanity's ability to systematically discriminate against people based on things like money or power or position. And that's why Titan shifters are so angry at the way that humanity is constructed and the way humanity is built, that's why they're taking that anger and frustration out, because they misuse and abuse people due to inherent greed. Maybe that's where it all stems from, is this frustration that humanity refuses to see the real danger, the true threat, which is the Titans. And I can see where Erwin's coming from. Absolutely 100% he's in the right here. But again, I feel like this is going to come into play in season 3 with him making possibly dangerous enemies, and that could eventually lead to his downfall, because we're already seeing here that he is not above gaining information for his own benefit and advantage, even if that makes him a target from the nobles. And we also know that the nobles and the elites within the interior, they have power beyond Erwin. They have control beyond Erwin, and they're not above misusing their power if it satisfies their own wants and needs. And if Erwin poses a threat to their wants and needs, again, we're seeing here that they're quite willing to take him out by any means necessary. And part of me worries that that could eventually happen in season 3, where maybe people collude against Erwin because he's coming too close to the truth, that maybe his ideals and his plans are going to reveal how corrupt society is, just how deep the secrets of society run, and just how dangerous the elites are within the interior. And that's eventually going to lead to them to collude and maybe have Erwin charged with something that he hasn't done, but it's their way of getting rid of him before he can topple everything down, before he can ruin what they have built, before he can get in the way of their ambitions within society without seeing the bigger picture, without seeing what Erwin's actually trying to do. And that's what I think is going to be Erwin's downfall is, yes, he is willing to do whatever he can for the sake of humanity, but he's also puts himself at risk by making these dangerous enemies that may have more power and influence than he necessarily anticipates, and that could manipulate information, manipulate evidence in order to make him guilty, or maybe even by the courts in a way that he could be charged for something that he wouldn't think he'd ever be charged with, because everything he does is for the greater good of humanity. And I feel like that's kind of what this is hinting at. As much as Erwin is willing to put actions behind his words, he plays a very dangerous game that could backfire on him eventually. And I think he's aware of that, but again, he is still willing to do whatever is necessary if it protects humanity and saves humanity. And as a result, I think that's going to be his downfall, just based on what we've seen of him as a character so far, and also the glimpses here of how he's willing to target even rich merchants of the interior, nobles of the interior, if it means he can help humanity by continuing these expeditions, by continuing funding to these expeditions. That's eventually going to bite him in the ass in season 3. That's my prediction. It's a dangerous game, and I think he knows as
人類の
well.
未来か。
What was that look for? It was kind of like he knows more than he's letting on. So that's really interesting to see that pop up, and that's because I recently learned about the dynamic of blue and red in Japanese mythology, and it's to do with the red and blue oni. And the only reason I know of this is because I'm watching Death Note, where like red and blue is very much like an iconic symbolism in that show. Yeah, so it's the red and blue dynamic, and it's meant to indicate the personalities, and it's apparently a really big thing in anime. So I'm really excited that it showed up here so I can actually talk about it. But the red and blue oni are supposed to indicate the different personalities of the characters. So you have red that embodies passion, emotion, and impulsiveness, but also defiance. And then you have the blue oni that represents calmness, logic, restraint, and selflessness. So they're very much designed to show conflict between characters, the conflict of interests, but also the way that these characters can balance one another, almost like a yin and yang kind of situation. So in Death Note, you have Light, who is represented by red, and you have L, who is represented by blue. And they are very similar in terms of that they're both driven by the same things. But the red in Light obviously shows his passion and his impulsiveness because he can be quite impulsive in the decisions that he makes. And then you have L, who is blue, and he is more logical and restrained in his actions, but both are willing to do whatever is necessary to get ahead, which again we see with Levi and Erwin. One is more defiant and one is more restrained, but both are willing to do whatever is necessary if it benefits society, if it benefits humanity, if it benefits themselves. So I guess the dynamic between the two is supposed to show the theme of conflict, that they're on opposing fields to one another, but eventually they may come into a process of balance where they bring out the more positive sides of one another, where they're able to connect. My friend had told me, because we were talking about Death Note and he had watched my video. So big shout out to Obi, who had said, "Oh, I saw you brought up like the red and blue symbolism dynamic." He said this is rooted in Japanese mythology and sent me a link that was really, really interesting to read. So yeah, I'm kind of like, the nerdy side of me is like, oh my God, the symbolism, it's come up again. Because obviously the symbolism so far I've only seen in Death Note. And because those are my first two animes, it's really nice to start seeing the like crossovers between the two, the symbolism that is coming out in both of them, such as how you have a character who's defined in red as someone who is impulsive and passionate. I know there's probably going to be people here like Levi passionate because he doesn't really show it, but he is passionate about the people he cares about, and he's passionate about changing his situation in life. And he's also quite hot-headed and reckless, as we've seen. His friend had to intervene. Of course, the Levi we see in the show is a Levi that has come to accept the Survey Corps as his family, has come to accept his position. Whereas we're seeing a Levi who is not there necessarily by choice. He's kind of been forced into it by circumstances beyond his control, and that's leading to him being quite defiant. And then you have Owen, who is balanced. He's preventing chaos because he is bringing Levi into the fold. He is preventing him from causing reckless destruction. It wouldn't surprise me if Erwin already suspects that there is a bigger plan in place using Levi, and that's why he's bringing him in somewhere that he can watch him, that he can keep an eye on him to prevent it. It just made me really happy because I was like, oh, it's happening again, you know? It's happening. It's happening. I can see it. So it's just really interesting to see the thematic significance of this, where like they're bringing characters together that have opposing traits, that it's allowing the show to delve into the difference in characters, their opposing behaviors, and how this is going to sort of drive their character development, as well as how the story is going to change going forward, how they come to reconcile their differences, how they come to balance one another, how they come to appreciate the traits in one another that aren't necessarily traits in themselves. And oh, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. This is really, really interesting to see. Sorry, the little nerdy side of me got really, really happy there because I was like, yes, those, I've seen that before. She's really enjoying the horse riding part, isn't she?
驚いた。どこかで乗馬習ったの？いや、でも昔から動物は好きなんだ。こいつも私のことが好きだって言ってる。まさか。本当だよ。
その剣はそういう持ち方を想定して作られていない。壁外で真っ先に死にたいのか。
てめえならそうなるかもな。
なんだと。
要は巨人の
Levi.
同じがそげりゃいいんだろうが。俺は好きにさせてもらう。
彼は訓練兵団に行っていたの？
Nope.
そんなはずは。
いいね、たぎるね。すべてはやり方次第だ。巨人の探求も討伐も。
She loves him.
面白くなってきたな。
にわか仕込みで巨人を倒せるか。何？
Natural talent. Like Mikasa. Both of them seem to have like a natural skill and ability when it comes to the ODM gear and the weapons.
何なんだ今の速さ。危険の度合いは何で分からせる？深淵弾の色で区別します。
Yes, okay, so he did invent that. That's so cool. Because we see that play out in season 1, and it's like such a fundamental mechanic as to how they organize themselves.
くそ、どこだ。
I think
荷物も
Erwin
少ないし、
suspects that
楽勝だと
they're
思った
here
のに。
for a reason.
何回やってもダメだ。部屋に置いてないと思った方がいい。
え、じゃあどこにあんの？
お前、絶対取られたくないもんはどうしてる？
決まってるよ。腹巻きの中。
持ち歩いてる可能性は高い。で、考えたんだけど、壁外調査を利用する。壁外なら、エルヴィンや他の奴らの注意は巨人に集中するからな。必ず隙ができるはずだ。
なるほど。それがいいね。
リヴァイ、いいな。
ただし、俺一人で行く。
え？
お前たちは適当な理由を見つけて残れ。
He doesn't want to put their lives in danger, does he?
俺たちはまだ本物の巨人を見たことがない。壁外も初めてだ。行って帰ってくるだけで精一杯かもしれん。
He's willing to sacrifice himself if it keeps them safe.
俺たちには無理だってことか。
そうだ。俺の勘だ。
They're gonna defy him and they're gonna end up dead, aren't they?
やってみなきゃわかんないだろ。ど
Oh,
うしたんだよ。臆病風なんてらしくないぜ。
he's not losing his nerve, he just cares.
別の機会を狙う。
I don't think it's anything to do with doubting their ability. It's just he wants to keep them safe, and this is the only way to keep them safe. They're essentially like a family to him. Like his only family, so.
リヴァイ、話し合おう。どう考えてもお前一人で行くのがいいとは思えない。それこそ危険だ。
外へ行くときは3人一緒に。だろ？忘れたのか。
Oh god. They're gonna go and they're gonna die.
月も星もないと夜の暗さは地下も地上も変わりない。
でも違うよ。天井がないのがわかるもん。全然違うよ。
そうだな。空が抜けてるんだ。同じ暗さでも地下とは違う。
ほら。月だ。こんなに明るい。な、違うだろ。
そうさ。ここは地下じゃないんだ。
Oh, they're gonna die this episode and I'm gonna cry. I can feel it.
もう絶対地下には戻らない。
Because we never see them in season
一
1.
緒にやろうぜ。
リヴァイ、俺たちを信じてくれ。
Which means that they don't make it past this episode.
So ist es immer unser Licht ist nur das. Trinken und singen, wir begrüßen morgen.
信じよう。
本当兄貴は頑固だな。
This show is so beautiful. Explorations performed by the Scout Regiment outside the walls. The goals of these activities is to explore that unknown exterior realm as well as to ascertain the truth about the Titans. But each time many soldiers lose their lives. Of particular note, 30% of new recruits die during the first expedition, which is what's making me think they don't come back, because 30% of new recruits die during the first expedition, and those are recruits that have actually trained. They have no training. And Levi's an exception. He's particularly skilled, but the others not so much. I have a really bad feeling. Didn't Win say something similar in season 1? The word for word the same? Like, it harkens back to season 1 of like Levi panning, and I believe it's Hanji stroking her horse during that scene. It's either Hanji or Petra. I think it's Petra. His OG squad here versus his new squad. Oh my goodness. They get goofier and goofier. They really do. Oh my god. Straight into his mouth. Oh god. Levi! He's so cool. I'm so glad we get to see more of Levi, like, fighting and in action. Oh, I knew it. Okay. Don't get cocky.
ガスを使いすぎだ。壁外では特に注意しろ。
仲間たちの命よりも持ち物の節約を重視しろと。
無駄な動きが多いと言っている。何か迷いがあるのではないのか。それはすぐお前自身を殺すぞ。
雨ってこんなに降るんだな。
ああ、これじゃ巨人がいても見えないぞ。
チャンスだ。この雨に紛れてエルヴィンに近づける。
リヴァイ、
やるのか兄貴。
ああ、だが3人同時に離脱するのは不自然だ。
He's gonna break away and leave them two alone, and they're gonna die, and he's gonna feel incredibly guilty.
地上の居住権取ってきてくれよ
な。もし何か聞かれたら地形を確認しに行ってると言え。
わかった。
But what's incredibly sad is that they already have the right to live on the surface, because he's never going to see them again. But they already have the right to live on the surface by being in the survey corps. That's the sad thing.
何か迷いがあるのではないのか。好きな方を選べ。
Owen already knows.
この手で殺してやる。
He already knows. It's the same music that played when Annie was hiding amongst the survey corps. That's really cool. Oh my god.
なんだ何があった
An abnormal.
まさかすれ違ったのか
Yeah, his friends are gonna be dead. Oh, I fucking knew it. Oh, that's horrible. Oh my god. Oh, Levi. Holy shit. He is so incredibly powerful. Oh, this is when we're gonna see him save the badgers, isn't it?
てめえを殺せそのためにここにいる
ロボフの不正の証拠書類そのダミーだ本物は今頃ダリス・ザックレー総統に届けられているだろうロボフは終わりだ
So it didn't matter in the end.
全部分かってたのかお前を狙ってると分かってて俺たちを
It's the same music from Series 1, Episode 22. That's why it's hitting me so hard.
俺たちを信じてくれ
頼むぜ兄貴
よせ後悔をするな後悔の記憶は次の決断を鈍らせる結果など誰にもわからないのだ一つの決断は次の決断のための材料にして初めて意味を持つ壁外調査を続けるリヴァイお前も来るんだ
俺にはわからないずっとそうだ自分の力を信じても信頼に足る仲間の選択を信じても結果は誰にもしかしこいつは俺には見えない何かを見ているいいだろうついていってやるエルヴィン・スミス俺がこの決断を悔いることはない決して
I can't keep watching this show. Jeez, I can't keep doing makeup to watch Attack on Titan if I'm gonna cry at every single fucking episode. Look, I have like tears on my neck. It's ridiculous. Oh my god. The fact that all of that ended up being for nothing because Owen was 2 steps ahead, and it kind of reiterates to Levi that there's more to Owen than meets the eye, and that Owen is looking at the bigger picture. Owen's looking at something that he can't see, and that probably entices his curiosity, but also his trust in him. Because as much as he feels guilt for the death of his comrades, he knows that Owen's actions have a bigger purpose and a bigger meaning that he is not necessarily aware of as of yet, but that's why he's willing to go ahead and trust him. I keep going to cry again. Just a symbol of the 2 birds. At the end, representing Fallon and Isabel and symbolizing that they're free, that they are no longer trapped by the underground, that they have the freedom to roam and explore and just, oh, symbolism. The symbolism is beautiful and heart-wrenching at the same time because they're following Levi out in his journey as like a reminder because they'll always be with him. I hate how emotionally invested I am in this show because it feels like every episode is going to have me in tears. And it's just kind of like, what's the point of putting makeup on if I'm just going to full on sob through every single episode so far? But what I really liked was that we begin to see where Levi passes on the wisdom to Erin that he received from Erwin after the loss of Isabel and Fallon, where that whole you'll never know if the decision you make is the right one. It has to be the decision that you're willing to live with the consequences of, and that no one can know the outcome of one's actions, and you just have to hope essentially for the best. And that's the same advice that he gives to Erin when Erin is torn between listening to his comrades about trusting them or becoming a titan to fight Annie. Erin makes that decision, but then they unfortunately die in episode 21, and Erin starts to blame himself, starts to regret not having chosen the action that he first wanted to do, and starts to feel guilt. But it's similar to what Erwin's saying to Levi, you may feel guilty, but you can't predict the outcome of what's going to happen. And that guilt and doubt will get you killed because if you second guess everything, you are not going to live long because you're not going to be able to trust your instincts. You're not going to be able to enact your actions if you're constantly second guessing everything. If you're second guessing that this could get you killed or it could get somebody else killed. And that's probably the biggest life lesson that Levi receives. And it's also something he tries to pass on to Erin. So it's really kind of sweet to see that he learns that from Erwin and in turn tries to pass that on to Erin. And I've said that I see similarities between Levi and Erin, and I think Levi also sees those similarities. You know, this hot headed, ambitious young teen who is almost defiant, who sometimes thinks that he knows better than everyone around him and can be quite hot headed and can be quite rash. And it's just interesting now that we've seen his background, how he was also very similar in his behavior and has learned through witnessing the death of 2 of his closest friends and people he regarded as family to moderate and to not regret his actions, but to live with the decisions that he makes because those decisions are the ones he's willing to live with the consequences of, because he doesn't know the outcome, because he could have left them and they could have been fine. He could have stayed with them and he could have ended up dying. No one can predict the outcome of one's actions, and that's the biggest lesson that Levi is learning, to trust his own instincts and to trust in what he believes is the right decision in that time, and that to second guess it is only going to lead to weakness and is only going to lead to him being killed, in the same way that he tries to install that into Eren, that the decisions you make in life are ones that you need to live by. They are ones that you need to not regret. These two OVAs were beautiful. Just seeing the dynamic and the hopefulness for the future, but then the absolute horror that comes with being beyond the walls and just seeing the natural raw skill that Levi has, and just he took down that abnormal in a way that no one else could. We saw how strewn the bodies were. So this abnormal was tried to be stopped by numerous people and couldn't, and Levi did it single-handedly, which just goes to show how talented he is. He is connected to somebody in this show because he has to be, because they keep hiding his name. And I find that very telling that they're not giving his last name to us. They only give us his first name. And that's because he has to be linked to somebody, but we don't know who yet he's connected to. If I had to make a stab in the dark, based on similarities, Mikasa. I don't know how they would be connected, but again, if I was basing it on their raw skill, their ability to handle the ODM gear, and it's a natural talent, their ability to be the strongest and most powerful in taking down the titans around them, Mikasa seems to only come second to Levi in terms of skill. When they were fighting against Annie, she nearly took Annie down single-handedly, but it was Levi that really halted her in her steps when he joined her. So she is powerful, but not as powerful as Levi, or at least not yet. They both have a natural talent with the ODM. They're both naturally talented in taking down the Titans. They're both incredibly powerful, both incredibly strong, both incredibly resilient. They both behave in very similar ways in being quite emotionally reserved. And that could be due to the trauma that they've both experienced, but they're quite restrained in their emotions. There are times we see Mikasa emotional, but that's usually when it comes to Eren. But with everybody else, they act in a very similar way. They are very, like, if I'm thinking back to previous episodes, like the scary eyes that they both have when they're intent on killing somebody, or they're intent on forcing somebody to accept their view, or when they're determined to get their own way, and when they're driven to perform an action, they look very alike. So yeah, if I had to guess, I think he's connected to Mikasa somehow, because again, that hiding of the last name is very, very telling, and then just the similarities in behavior and personality makes him and Mikasa very similar. But it wouldn't make sense because she was an only child, unless he's like a cousin or something. There's going to be a reveal with Levi when it comes to that last name, because they're hiding it. We got Ferlin's last name, we got Isabel's last name. Why didn't we get Levi's? It's very interesting that that's not something the show is giving us, and it's for a reason. They're hiding it for a reason. It was really interesting to see the deeper class dynamics than just the walls, because we know that the walls are separated by class, but to also see that there is an even more disadvantaged class that don't even get access to sunlight and are taken advantage by the merchants, to the extent that even Levi is taken advantage of by somebody in the interior. They know of him and they're basically using his position in life to manipulate and get their own way. And it's incredibly sad to see that there's an entire group of people worse off than those within the walls above ground, and that they're just seen as lesser and hated for it, and just brings back to similarities of the Titan shifters and their comments of being hated from birth. And it makes you really curious as to, okay, this seems to be like a reoccurring theme. This seems to be something that we're constantly seeing. So it must be maybe something that they can bond over, having gone through disadvantages and hardship in a way that the Titan shifters have also gone through that. Maybe that's something that they can relate and bond over in future. It almost seems like they're all being forced to fight one another for similar reasons, similar hatred, but at the same time, they all have these connections that are being overlooked because of war. I guess that's the same for any war, isn't it? It's you know, when you've got soldiers fighting one another, they're all fighting for the same reason. They're all fighting to get home to their families. They're all fighting for what they believe is the greater good. And when you're in a war, you forget those similarities. You forget those connections. You have to almost dehumanize the enemy because in you can't see them as a person because it makes it harder to kill them. So I guess maybe that's where Reiner, Annie, Bertold, and Ymir come into play, is that they allow for humans to understand and see the connections and the similarities, and that maybe becomes the bridge that is desperately needed to recognize that everyone is fighting for the same thing, but just on different sides. And maybe their role is to bridge that divide. We can already begin to see that Rhino and Bertold are very conflicted because they didn't expect to bond with the other cadets. They didn't expect to feel accepted and like a family. And it's almost changed their viewpoint and changed their perspective. And I can see it also having the same impact on the cadets, that their viewpoint may be changed and altered should they come to understand why Reiner and Bertold are doing what they're doing. So maybe it's meant to show that the hatred of the older generation can be amended through the younger generation and their ability to connect and interact and bridge that divide that's been created by those older than themselves, by those who have allowed their hatred to corrupt their worldview and have allowed their hatred to corrupt their children. And the children are going to eventually work together or become connected in a way that's unexpected. And that's going to create a world where maybe one day Titan shifters and people can live together in relative peace. Maybe that's kind of where the show is going, is that like our differences are only differences when we refuse to see the similarities in other people, and that in seeing the similarities with people we regard as the enemy, then progression and connection and intimacy can grow, and we can begin to connect in a way that was previously unavailable to us, and that it has the power and potential to change the world. Maybe I'm just thinking too much on this. I don't know. This episode kind of broke me a little bit. I'm very sad. I'm very sad right now. If you enjoyed this react, please consider liking, subscribing, and leaving a comment below. And until next time, bye.